me estoy encabronando. Escúchame lo que te estoy diciendo. La gente que no, que graba, por favor, graba, por favor.
Y así se hizo. La verdad no se dice con permiso. Conecta tus audífonos con amplitud.
Impressive history of Cuba set against the backdrop of the biggest concert for peace to date. A concert that almost did not happen. Welcome to NBC6.com's Latin Beat section. Here to tell us more about 13 Million Voices making its world premiere at the Miami International Film Festival. Our brother and sister duo, director Janelle Gueits and producer Chris Gueits. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, Roxanne.
Oh, no, thanks for joining us here. That clip, let's talk about that clip when Juanes, mega Latin superstar Juanes, turned to the camera and said, record. You heard him saying in Spanish, he said, no, que graben, record. He did not want your camera to stop rolling. Tell us more about that moment.
Wow, yeah, you're going straight to the hot button. That moment was very intense. I honestly almost didn't even record at the moment because I was in such a state of shock. I myself had, tears rolling down my cheek when one of the film protagonists, Felice Gorodo, kind of nudged me in the shoulder, reminding me, brought up the camera and just got right into the center of it. And I can't speak for him and what he was going through in that moment, but what I observed was they're feeling the indignation of what they had observed of all of the different injustices that we had been observing in a short period of time, and feeling the need for someone to capture that testimony in that moment, and to be able to proclaim to the world, this better stop now or this concert is not going to happen.
And that was in Cuba. That was filmed in Cuba.
This was in Cuba, in Hotel Nacional, with all of the artists, the delegation. It's in the room. It's an hour before the concert, just an hour before when this massive blow-up occurs.
And what was the blow-up about?
So the blow-up was of a culmination of things, but behind the scenes, for instance, even our group was being harassed behind the scenes, as were many individuals. When one of the film protagonists was even taken to a room and shown camera images of his room. His bags had his family threatened. There was young activists that were being detained across the island. The access to the plaza itself was being controlled, and government buses were bringing in hand-picked individuals to be able to pertain to that. And that was very much against what the artists' terms were when they did this concert. The whole point was a concert free and open to all of the Cuban people. It was even financed by the artists themselves. So this was at every level. It was what happens so many times in Cuba, which is you come in with good intentions, but if you don't know what you're doing and you don't stand up for it, like the artist did, you can be manipulated, and they did not allow that to happen.
Manipulated by the government.
Manipulated by the government, but because they stood for what they believed in such a powerful way, such a humbly powerful way, and almost even, you could feel almost like a spiritual air to it as people cried and hugged and prayed. But ultimately, 1.3 million people gathered for one of the biggest concerts ever and the largest event for peace in world history.
When did this project come to light, Chris? When did you guys decide, hey, you have an idea, you plant the seed, but then you actually get working on it?
Yeah. So the story actually goes back 10 years to the first time that we traveled to Cuba. Our family's Cuban-American. Was born in Cuba. We're Cuban-American. So Cuba was always something that was around us, but wasn't necessarily in our minds or present on something we wanted to focus our lives on. But we had a number of key experiences that really made us realize we need to get involved and we need to learn about what's going on in Cuba. We need to share it. So we traveled for the first time back in 2003, 2004, meeting with young activists, young people who were just doing interesting things independent of the government. And those stories changed our lives. Those people that we met made us realize we can't just stay quiet. We can't just not do something. These people need us. They need us to help raise their voices, to help tell their stories to the rest of the world. And in the process of doing that, we realized we had this idea, this thought, it'd be incredible if a massive concert, a massive star could come here and help to tell these stories. Now, that was completely independent. We didn't expect this concert to happen, to actually this dream to come true. But Juanes approached members of our nonprofit and asked for our help. And so for us, it was this clear moment of, oh my goodness, this is that vision we once had. let's make this happen. And even still, it wasn't easy. There was doubt. There was, should we really do this? There was controversy even internally within us, some turmoil about whether we should get involved. Ultimately, very proud of what transpired.
Yeah, absolutely. The world was definitely watching at that moment, those moments unfold. Now that the film, this documentary, I'm going to use the word documentary because it was an event that you followed with your cameras, is coming to light here at the Miami International Film Festival. The communities, we're on edge. We can't wait to see it. What does that mean to you? I mean, Miami is such a diverse, multicultural community, but there is a huge Cuban American, the exile community. This is their home now. So to have that support voiced here by locals, what does that mean to you guys?
I think there's two parts of that. First of all, we're born and raised in Miami. We've lived in other cities, but our heart is in Miami. Our family's in Miami. So this means a lot to us personally. It means a lot to our community in terms of not just talking about Cuba, not just learning about it, but actually experiencing it. And telling that story is a little bit different. But it's also not a Cuban story. It's a human story. When we talk about issues like expression and the ability for young people or any person to be able to create their own future for themselves, that's a universal story. And so we think that this is the perfect time to tell it.
Wow. Well, thank you for telling the story. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, guys, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears, a labor of love coming to fruition, so congrats on that. 13 Million Voices. It makes its world premiere March 11th at the Miami International Film Festival. You can catch the matinee screening Saturday, March 14th at the Tower Theater in Little Havana. For more information and tickets, go to MiamiFilmFestival.com. For more information on the film, go to 13, the number 13.co. Thanks for joining us here on NBC6.